Hello again, Amiga artists. This is Photon of Scoopex. Uh, just a quick notice, and I'll never mention it again. If you don't see episodes, tutorials 16 through 18 in your country, if you can find them on YouTube, or if you find them and you get a notice that they are blocked in your country, then that's because the Google YouTube bots had a problem with the faint background music that I was talking over, and they didn't allow me to fix the problem once the problem had been found. So what it did do is allow me to make copies of tutorials 16 through 18 that are hopefully fixed and will not be blocked in your country. That's enough of that. Here we have our font that we made. You may have made a different font, expressing your own artistic ideas. It doesn't matter. The important thing is to, first of all, put it somewhere where we can find it. I like to make a subdirectory called something like work or in files, or I don't know, maybe media, doesn't matter. And let's call it something better. Fast car font. So I wanted to talk a bit about delivering the graphics. I always use the 32 color mode for everything I do. It's a bit lazy, but so let's load that. And as you can see, we're only using the first 8 colors, and that's on purpose. Often you want to, well, at least if you're making demos for a machine with only half a meg of chip RAM, then you want to conserve memory use, and this means that you want to optimize your stuff. And in this case, I wanted to make a sort of a smart solution where you get 3 fonts for the work of one, depending on what you choose here. In this case, you can get, for example, the small font in one bit plane, the big font in 2 bit planes, using the first 4 colors here with anti-aliasing. And if you want the highlights, you can get a 3-bit plane version of the font. It's also a bit fluffy. If you're really if you really care a lot about it, you should pack the font close together and ask your coder to write a nice little routine to mask these fonts out. However, if you make the characters an even 16, 32, 40, 48, 64, and so on in width per character, then the coder has an easier job of copying directly from the included bitplane version of the font. That is, he doesn't have to mask the characters out. So it depends on what you're trying to do with it. Certainly you can pack them together vertically like this, and we should do that. I'm in Deluxe Paint because I want to show you what happens when you reduce colors in Deluxe Paint, and then we're gonna switch to the IFF converter. Just cutting it out, aligning and pressing undo to align it. Press undo, then align, press undo again to clear it, and vertically align it. When you do this, you should take care noting that all the characters are the same height, or I should say that there's always one character on each character row that is the intended height of the font, so that you don't create a font where the distances between each row differ. So if we go measure that, it's 20, and if we measure this, it should be 20. If we measure this, it should be 20. Remember that you have to be vertically aligned before pressing shift, or you have to press shift to start with, which I didn't do. So we're just checking that the coder doesn't have to handle a special case where, and we don't need to check the last row, handle a special case where he has to note all the different heights of the character rows and then look up which character is being fetched and calculating some vertical coordinate as well as the horizontal coordinate. Not packing them together horizontally makes it easier, incidentally, also for the coder to make a quick scroll routine or whatever, because he can just multiply take the character number, make some sort of table, and then multiply a horizontal offset that is the same for all the characters. So he doesn't have to check the coordinates and note them in some way and then enter them into the table. He can just say that this is character 0, this is character 1, and so on, and then have an ASCII to font offset table in his code. It simply makes it easier. So let's save that, and we can overwrite it because it is as it should be. Now this is the final version. Now let's before we convert this, let's try and see what Deluxe Paint does if we reduce this to one color. I should say two colors. What I meant to say was one bit plane. So as you could see there, it was calculating a new palette. So we should have noted if this RGB value for this color that is kept out of all the 32 colors is the correct one that we want. And I must refrain from pressing F10 because that will end the recording. So now we have a 1-bit plane small font version here, and we have a 1-bit plane big version of the font, which actually turned out, I was afraid the anti-aliasing would, where we replaced some of these brightest contour colors with darker colors to anti-alias them, that the corners, etc., would look bad, but they're actually looking hunky-dory. So in this case, we could say that Deluxe Paint converted the picture to 1-bit plane excellently, and we can get two fonts out of it. Now there's no way to undo this, even if you copy something to the spare screen. Before you do this, both buffers will be reduced to the screen format that you select. So let's load it again, and we do want to go to the original screen format. And what about, I was going to demonstrate how Deluxe Paint sometimes messes up this color reduction. That might not happen because of the way I have arranged the colors. I did arrange the colors so that this would be the 1-bit plain version font color, which is the main color of the font. So the main colors of the font is the background color and the foreground color. For 2 colors or 1-bit plain, if you add another 2 colors, you get 2-bit planes, and this adds the anti-aliasing colors so that you can get a crisp font anyway. And then I put the highlights in the other following 4 colors to make that 8 colors or 3-bit planes, so that you could, for the sole purpose of being able to select the bit plane depth that you have room for in your demo. Eventually we're going to use the full color version of the 3-bit plane version of the font in our demo, of course, but I think it's good to show how to deliver graphics to your coder, or in the unlikely event that the coder and the graphics artist is the same person, it's good to know this, so you can deliver the correct graphics to yourself. How about that? So let's dry humor on a Sunday night. The dry humor is the best, man. Okay, let's reduce it to just 4 colors, which equals 2-bit planes, and let's see what Deluxe Paint makes of that. And that's what I wanted to show. It seemed to pick the most important colors or something like that, some sort of representative spread of colors. And as you can see, the anti-aliasing is completely gone, even though I arranged the colors so that the anti-aliasing would be kept when using just 4 colors. So the anti-aliasing colors, the darker ones, have been thrown out, and the highlight stuff has been kept. So it looks quite a bit different and not as expected. So to avoid this, you can use the excellent IFF converter by Kefrens, and I will show you how that will look later on. Right now we're going to load the font again. And as you noticed, I set all the unused colors to pink, because that's a standard trick you're using when you want Deluxe Paint to not confuse. If I would have kept the original palette here, the risk is that there would have been some blue cyan-ish color left in there, and when reducing colors, that would have meant that it would have picked that RGB value from the palette instead of the ones we've determined once and for all here. And that would change the look of the font. Some pixels would be darker, so the highlight would look perhaps bad. This is also a good trick to use when you're using another option that I will not show you right now, but there will be a tutorial on this later on after we finish our demo, and that is the remap option, so that I can show you quickly that if you go into the palette and you exchange 2 colors like this, because you simply want that color number to be used for something special. Now the font looks bad. However, when we change color and remap that, The palette will be kept, but the pixels that we're using, that color, will be remapped to suit the newly remapped palette that you wanted. So we can move these where we want, basically, and you can do you can swap and change colors as much as you want, and then when you're happy with the color arrangement in the palette, perhaps you have a request from your coder that please use color 16 for something, because that color is not used for the sprites. If you use color 17, it will collide with the sprite palette, for example, if you're making a game, things like that. So this is good to know if you're making game graphics and other graphics, or if you want to rearrange the palette to put the colors in group colors nicely, so that they're easier to use when you're drawing or color cycling or whatever. So as you can see, the palette looks pretty random, but all the information has been kept perfectly by Deluxe Paint. If you remove colors and remap, then Deluxe Paint will try to map to the closest color, and this could be what you want. For example, if you find you're using 9 colors and your coder says, sorry, can you reduce it to 8 colors please, including the background, then you could find 2 close colors and remove one of them, set one of them to the same RGB value, for example, and move things around, and set all the other colors to bright pink colors, colors that you're not using in your graphics, and then do a remap, and it will remap all those close enough pixels to a color that is within the first 8 colors, and you will have you will have reduced your picture to 8 colors successfully. I will show this in a later tutorial, although I suppose I could have shown you that in the time it took to tell you about it. So here's our font, and I guess we're pretty much done with what we want to show. If you want to save disk space, by all means go ahead and reduce number of colors to 8 and save, override it. It's a good thing to be proper. I'm going to be lazy and start the IFF converter. And this demonstrates then the ability of the IFF converter to simply strip bit planes. What it does is it doesn't care about any color values, it doesn't care about any information that is present in the bit planes that you remove. It simply removes them, so that if you are using colors above or including color 8 here, then you will get they will look bad, they will look erroneous. So so to reduce these, then you just type 3 bit planes. Nothing happens, right? But you've told the IFF converter that you only, when you save this, you only want to save the first 3 bit planes, or the first 2 bit planes, which makes it look bad, right? That's strange. It should not. It should have kept the anti-aliasing colors. This is completely unrehearsed, and I'm quite flabbergasted by this, because the highlight, oh right, of course the highlights use the top 4 colors, right? But these are color numbers 4, 5, 6, and 7, which naturally are, they're odd and even colors, so naturally they're gonna set bitplanes, the first bitplane bits to either 1 or 0, and this is what causes these. So your best bet for that is to remap the colors or strip information from the font, and resave the picture and then set the depth to 1 bitplane. If we go further to 1 bitplane, you will indeed only get the background color plus the foreground color. The small font is still intact and can be used, but the big font is pretty much trashed. We don't care about that. We're going to save a 3 bitplane version of the font, and we're going to first of all see if we can cut this out here. I'm going to align to the left edge, and in this case right click to get the cursor, and then you can see the even 16 pixel bounds here. So if you look at the rightmost edge of this window, this rectangle, you see 2 lines. One is the actual outer bound, the right bound, and the other is a 16 pixel boundary. That means that I'm exceeding, in this case, I'm traversing into the next word here by currently 3 pixels. It includes it's the 16 pixel boundary plus an empty column in between, and then the right edge bound. So that means what I wanted to explain was that you have to go to not overlap like this. You have to go, you can just check your width gauge. The problem is you don't quite see it until you're done, I think. So either way, we're going to go like this, and it seems I may have an alignment problem here for the font, for the R and S characters, and this is good to find. You don't, as I did, you might not always detect that when you're drawing. That one slipped right past me, so that means that the alignment for the R and S characters will be out of whack when we use the font. So that's sloppy craftsmanship. So let's quit and go back to Deluxe Paint, and I can, by the way, show you the proper way of reducing colors. Then I was not thinking clearly. And remove that. Okay, so to properly reduce this to 2 bitplanes, the big font to 2 bitplanes, let's go ahead first and move these 2 characters to be aligned horizontally, like that. Oh yeah. And save. Save. Yes, please. And what we want to do is we want to make the highlights the same as the foreground color. So this should be copied to here and to here, and we can make a shortcut and spread to that. So we spread from the foreground color to the foreground color, and this has reduced the number of colors. However, we may or may not trust Deluxe Paint to remap them properly. Let's see if it does. Screen format. 8 colors. I'm sorry, 4 colors. And let's check that. And we hope it doesn't, but oh, that's horrible. Did you see that? It just doesn't work. So let's load it again. Getting a bit stressed out now because I've done this so many times. Well, I guess the proper way is to use a stencil. I'm gonna clear it. We're gonna invert it, and we're gonna unlock these. Make them Shift R, select the foreground color, and just replace the highlights like that. And this should be this is completely safe to bring into IFF converter and just remove the bit planes. Just enter 2 bit planes into the box there, and that will work. What we will do is copy these pink colors. Since we're not using these highlight colors anymore, I want to make sure that the remap option of Deluxe Paint when we reduce colors does not confuse the close to blue cyan colors with the actual blue colors that we want to keep and make a mess of the palette as it did the last time when we reduced colors. So and I hope to Jiminy that we don't get any pink colors in the palette, and we did not, and we checked the anti-aliasing and it looks good. So you can do this in Deluxe Paint as well as in IFF Converter if you use the stencil option to remove the colors that should be unused. Okay, so finally we have corrected we've adjusted the horizontal position of the RNS characters, so we deem the font to be correct now, and we can quit, save, no. And here we go again. So we want a 3-bit plain font, and we want it in raw interleaved format. And we may want to put the color map after the bitplane data, and we're going to cut it out properly. Come on. That was not correct. If you make an incorrect selection, right click again to get the selector going. So if we were to go this far, then we would get what I think is a too wide. The width is 288. No, that's okay. You can align the width to the actual 16 pixel bound, so that this is 1 pixel too much and this is just right, if you know what I mean. Or put simply, you just put the rectangle around as many pixels that have graphics in them. You just just put a rectangle as a sort of cross section over the graphics that you want to keep. In this case, we don't want to keep the small font, for example. And this is then your complete font. It's 284 by 100. Just give that to the coder, and you tell him the characters are spaced 32 pixels apart horizontally and 20 pixels apart vertically, or he may find it out himself by looking at your IFF file that you should also send to him. So that's basically it. Give the font a new name called 284 by 100 by 3-bit planes, and save it. And that's it. You can now consider your graphics delivered to your coder. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next tutorial where we code the actual scroller for this.